Welcome to Resonant Essentials and today's TV show, as usual, every Thursday, is Wisdom Keys with myself, Brother Francis. This is an opportunity for me to share across the board some of the many things that I have worked with and, of course, had an opportunity to be involved in for such a long period of time. So this is my week, and of course I'll be on next Thursday as well at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you're on the Pacific coastline, like in California, Oregon, Washington, you'll be watching at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're in the Central Time Zone, it will be 2 p.m. And if you're on the East Coast, all the way from New Hampshire down to Florida, in those regions under the East Standard Time, then you will be able to see it at 3 p.m. I'm going to be on for about a half hour, maybe a little more than that. Today's Pacific topic of Wisdom Keys for Thursday, December the 23rd, is discover 3 golden keys, which means you're going to learn how to alleviate physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress through the power of meditation. So this is my time to share this information with you, and I hope that you will get something from it and that you will also be able to use the information right away. I want to keep it as simple as possible and short as possible so that you can have a great time getting this information. Well, meditation is a very powerful tool. We are experiencing that, and people all over are involved in using meditation on different levels. Meditation is such a powerful tool, is being utilized therefore in numerous ways to help anyone overcome different types of stress. Now, it's been utilized by psychotherapists for their clients, and I know because I've been out there. Originally, I'm from New York, and many of the people who would allow me to work with their clients were psychotherapists, medical doctors for some of their patients, Alcoholic Anonymous groups. I remember participating in one, and they asked me to do a little bit of that. Educational facilities from grade schools to middle and high schools, going right in through the universities, are utilizing meditation not only just as a study, but as a daily practice. So the children, let's say in the grade schools, down into kindergarten and up, if they are around people who do it all the time, then they are able to sit. Instead of having a timeout session or a nap time, they seat them, spaced out so they can experience meditation. There's professional and amateur sports teams that are also utilizing it. In fact, there was a gentleman who played for the New York Knicks. His name was Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson, he was a forward for the New York Knicks back, I think, around the 1970s. And he later became a coach. He got a chance to coach the Chicago Bulls basketball team, and he incorporated meditation just before, toward the end of the practice, and also going into game time. And by having them utilize meditation, they could get on the same frequency as a team. Okay, that's all the guys playing, whether there's 10, 15, 20 guys, they could be on the same page in sync with each other. So they play a more cohesive game together. There's also martial arts training. People who have taken martial arts, you probably remember being seated almost like a half lotus position, or on your knees and shins, sitting up, and therefore the teacher letting you go into a state of meditation. Most of them in the earlier stages in the United States didn't really teach meditation, but they allowed the students to be seated. Those who, especially in the karate classes, but usually in things such as qigong classes, tai chi, kung fu classes, then those students with their teachers sat in meditation for at least a minute or two, just to calm the body down from anything outside that they were involved in prior to class, and especially at the end of the class. And then, of course, people who were teaching yoga, like such as hatha yoga, kriya yoga, all kinds of schools of bhakti yoga, they utilized meditation. People who were into Zen, Buddhism, used meditation. So meditation has been incorporated for some time. And then over a period of time, I would say in the last maybe 20 years or so, 30 years, because I've been doing it pretty close to 50, I'm in my 47th, 48th year, 47th year. So people started incorporating meditation or Tai Chi and Qigong, things of that nature, in the corporate world. And I remember when I lived on Long Island, the Yoga and Polarity Center that I worked for, eventually they got someone in to teach yoga, and then they sent me out. It was in Garden City, in the area where the Doubleday bookstore used to be on Long Island in Garden City, New York. And I was given that opportunity to teach Tai Chi, and I would mix it with a little bit of meditation toward the end. And I had for about at least an hour with the men and women who were working in the corporate world with book publishing. So it was giving them an opportunity, and they had a little workout area, so they can come down, they can lift weights, they could get on a treadmill, they can get on a bike if they wanted to. Some of them would walk around the big acre of property in which to get their exercise in. But it was always an opportunity to be able to do that and share in such a manner, to be able to help people release the stress. Now, stress is a big factor, right? Stress impacts your emotional nature, your mental nature, and it also definitely impacts the physical nature. It's like a hammer hitting a nail consistently or sporadically all over the place, because energetically you're not centered or calm. Now you have the spiritual and metaphysical churches and centers that incorporate meditation, because they understand by incorporating meditation, each attendant to their service in whatever they're doing or teaching allows them to become centered on the reflective energy of the God within. And by doing so, not just every service that they attend on a weekly basis, not just 2 or 3 times a week, but also get into the habit of utilizing meditation on their own at home. And that's essential. So if you're someone who is studying meditation on different levels, you really do have to work on it yourself. Work on your posture, your breathing, and so forth. And so these have been quite relevant at this time in presenting a way to restore a person's life back to a level of normalcy. And we're not going back, right? Because we got this pandemic that's going on. So meditation is the ideal thing to get involved with right now, to be able to control the thoughts patterns that you have and be able to control your emotions, because that's going to be very important. Our ancient ancestors all over the globe have used it to reach out and connect with their ancestors, with ancestral deities of the land, their spirit guides, the great I am presence, and of course one's own higher self. And that's the purpose of your meditation, is to be able to go within inside yourself. It is very important that you go within. None of this is really happening on the outside. Now, I might use some things in guided meditations to help you kind of just open yourself up more, where I have people, taking them into the great central sun and things of that nature. But in reality, it's on the inside. All the worlds that we're dealing with are on the inside of us. And this is something that we need to be able to comprehend and understand. Now, with diligent study and practice, you may arrive at attaining this sense of inner peace or internal peace, harmony, and happiness. At some point toward the end of this, I want to lead you into a meditation, not so much guided, but just give you a few keys, which I'm going to review right here, because I call this Discover the Three Golden Keys. All right, and stress is a big factor in our life right now. Stress causes a lot. Stress, so much stress going on from day to day, will cause you to eventually have your immune system break down. That much stress. Imagine people who are in countries where there's a live war going on, missiles compounding, hitting buildings. That is so much stress that people, go because it's way too much. It's on the heart, it's on the mind, the body is being affected by it, and all sorts of things can happen. Now, this stress, creating that amount of fracture in our daily lives, leads us into the abyss of physical stress. I'll say that again. That much stress going on in your life on any level, worry and anxiety that creates stress, begins to fracture the peace where you fall into the great abyss, that space of where physical stress is felt. Some of that physical stress is you can't sleep. You feel physical anxiety, right? You feel aches and pains throughout your muscles and your joints, right? You feel stiff, you stiffen up. Those things is where stress is impounding the body. There's emotional stress, where you hold in your feelings perhaps, or which is imploding on the inside, right, which can affect your health. Or you explode it onto the outside, onto other people externally. That's stressful, okay? And we've come across people who have experienced that. And I'm going to use myself as a living example. When I didn't know anything about meditation, I would go through those moments, right? I didn't have that, not that my mother, being my first teacher, could not explain. She knew people who could do those things. So that's why she was putting me in touch with them. But the whole idea was, if I had a little bit of anger, I was upset about something, I was holding that energy deep on the inside of myself, then I was not being healthier. It would actually, on the physical side as well as the emotional side, it would affect my asthma. Okay, not only would I be stuttering, but my asthma would kick in. Okay, and now I can't breathe. Okay, so I feel like, my lungs shutting down. Okay, my throat closing up. So emotional stress, and then you have mental stress, where there's so much worry and anxiety that's going on, where you are, we say, double guessing yourself. Okay, you make a decision and then you go backwards on yourself. And so stress can affect your mind. And these different levels, heightened levels, come through sometime watching the news. News media can do that. Do you remember that time? And I just mentioned this lightly. I think is when George Bush Jr. was president, and we were having the war with Iraq. And the news media was showing the war. And people were like glued to the TV set watching war live. Do you know how much stress that created in the minds of Americans, especially younger people watching that, knowing that they could see that, going on the internet, can see that? It's a lot of stress. Too much stress. And all it did was break down the immune system. People got sick. People became bipolar on some level. People had that inner anger, outer anger going on, lashing out at family members and friends. That's stress. Because why? They can't hold on to it. And then there's an interruption then of your personal daily family lives that gets affected by the stress. So a lot of things happen. Stress can add to skin disorders like eczema. Right? The skin dries out. You don't drink enough water. The nerves running underneath the skin and the muscles are being agitated. So now there's eruptions going on your skin, blotches called eczema. And I experienced that as well. It was meditation that helped me override it. But it took about 6 months, 6 to 8 months of going deeper with meditation on a daily basis that I finally hit the well. And I was able to flip the switch and control the eczema to the point that it went away. Because I was communicating with the cells in my body, the cells with the organs, the cells with the skin, the cells in the bloodstream, the cells in the lymph glands. You name it, I was able to connect. And even though, again, after that, I started doing like my own guided meditations, and I used to have something called meeting your higher self. That was the way I was able to connect, embracing my higher self, listening to my higher self as being this extension on the inside, showing me and telling me what to do. And the cells is speaking to me in the dream world and telling me what foods to eat and what foods to stay away from. So we could utilize meditation. So if you are experiencing problems and issues with the body, this doesn't go against anything that you're doing medically. So I want you to understand that as well. Meditation does not interrupt anything, any things that you're getting from your doctor. It will enhance it. It won't take away from it. That's one of the beauties of meditation, or people involved in martial arts, or marathon runners, or people, in other sports, because you're learning how to take care of the body. Meditation is an ideal way to start taking care of the body, because the whole body as a whole, your emotional, your mental, your physical, and your spiritual, gets a workout. And because there's some other things you're going to be doing with that. It'll help you fight through alcoholic addiction, drug addiction, and I said like anger and other imbalances that pop up in our bodies, our mind, and our life. So it really, really saturates all these different parts of ourselves. So let's discover the 3 golden keys and how they are used. Well, the first golden key, number 1, is learning how to breathe. This is essential to your well-being. Learning how to breathe. But one of the things that happens when you get upset, or if you see somebody get upset and they get very angry, they're not breathing with their whole body too much. They're breathing with the upper part of their, above the diaphragm, right? With their lungs, and their shoulders are going up and down. Their mouth is wide open. And they are what? Panting. Like that. That's, sometimes they can't get the words out, or they get out angry. And they, angry words and angry tones and angry energy. So whenever we experience difficult situations that can have us becoming upset emotionally and totally off balance mentally. I mean, you're not thinking with a calm mind, you're not with your thoughts being centered. So we have racing thoughts, right? And feelings, and everything is just bouncing all over the place. So when we have this panting that's going on, it's not permitting us to do what? To really have any oxygen go directly into your bloodstream, your lungs, and your brain. Those are the 3 strong areas: your bloodstream, your lungs, and your brain. Why? Because when you're panting like that, you're not getting much air in. Therefore, you're not getting much of the oxygen into your system as well. And it has to, and what happens is, and I've learned over the years, even with meditation practicing for as long as I have, it gets into your saliva, which also gets into your, which is always running through your body, right? Eventually, that particle of light, that energy that you're taking in, which is oxygenated breath, rhythmic breathing, will awaken the mind, will have you have a breakthrough eventually, will have you relax the muscles, relax yourself in such a way that you begin to calm down. So, when you're panting, the heartbeat speeds up. You're supposed to get 72 beats a minute, roughly. So if you touch yourself here, it's not going to be 72 beats a second. That 72 beats should get you close to a minute. You can feel it on this side, like catching the big artery that comes up there. Well, this is why doctors can touch you there, or they touch you here on your wrist, right? Where they could feel the beat. And you can count it off yourself. But if you're someone who's an athlete, your heartbeat rate is going to be lower than the average person. What I mean by the average person, the one who's not stressed out by stress. But then the everyday person that's popping energy all the time at a higher volume, a higher rate, they're going to be getting more than 72 beats. They might be up in the neighborhood of 80, 90, 100 beats. But if you're someone who could get into meditation, you could slow that down. Now, so that's one part. You want to put yourself in a position with your breathing. Now, what's one of the ways, and I always point this out to people, have you ever seen a baby breathe? You watch the whole body, but the abdominal area underneath the abdomen, not underneath the abdomen, but right underneath that upper part of the lungs and the heart, where the liver and everything else is, you see that belly button pop out when they're inhaling, and boom, pop in when they exhale. And that's something that's necessary. So that's a part of the golden key, number one, learning how to breathe as a baby would breathe. Now, when you're learning how to breathe as a baby would breathe, you begin to rhythmically breathe in a smoother fashion. And a consistent, smooth, slower fashion will begin to calm you down. Now, golden key number 2. This is where you begin to develop clarity and purpose for yourself. We begin to do this for ourselves. Why? Because in the process of this, we have to learn how to clear our mind from too much chatter. We have to have a better sense of purpose and direction. So we start learning to do that when we clear the mind. Become focused. And we start to take a closer look at what, why, and how we are thinking. Again, when you're utilizing the breath, you're slowing down the heartbeat. You're slowing down the brainwave level too. Those who get into deeper levels of meditation, your brainwave levels slow down. And so you're now in a position to influence your thoughts and how you feel toward other people in your environment. So it begins to literally, I would say, chill you out. Okay? Now, here's another thing. Many times we lack self-control. Meditation with the deep breathing and a slow rhythmic pace gets you in a position where you have greater self-control, where there were places that you lacked self-esteem, or had low self-esteem, didn't love yourself. We go through these stages when the stress is so much, we forget to shower ourselves with love, to shower ourselves with a healthy self-esteem. Okay, we forget to do those things. It happens. Why? Because too many things get accumulated, too many obligations. There's a lot of us out there who have too many obligations going on, and we're trying to fulfill all of them. We're trying to do everything. And this happens a lot with single parents, especially the mothers. When the mother's involved, they've got to run the household, they got to take care of the children, they got to feed the children, they're making sure the children has a roof over their head. Everything they're doing is for their children. And at the same time, the body's getting beat up under stress. So when we start to be aware of this, we start to regain self-love and self-respect. We start realizing, hey, if I don't take care of myself, if I don't get any rest, if I don't eat right, if I don't exercise right for myself and do whatever I need to do, then I'm not going to be in control. So you start to also not only have self-worth, but greater self-confidence. We have given ourselves the purpose at that point to live better lives, a more fruitful life, more prosperous, more abundance, and healthier with less to no more stress. Eventually, your goal is no stress. If you're up here like this all the time, every day, and you don't remember things, and sometimes you get there as an older person, you don't remember everything, you got a lot of aches and pains, your days are no longer 24-hour days, they act like they're 32-hour days, your weeks are flying by, too much stress. At some point, you have to stop. Sometimes you have to stop in the middle of the obligations to regain centeredness, because that's important. If you don't regain centeredness, it's not going to happen, okay? Now here's another thing. The golden key, number 3. So the first one was you got to reestablish your breath, right? That's the first one. Reestablish your breath. That's highly important. And the second golden key was to develop clarity with your mind and give yourself a purpose for yourself. You have to have a reason to do this. When you have a reason, then you have a target. You're the target. You're working on alleviating the physical stress. But what happens is you got to get into the mind. What are you worried about so much? What thoughts are you repeating all the time? Are you focusing more on fear and anxiety and stress and bills and whatever else? What is something that Dr. Michael Beckwith, the founder of the Agape University, where he's a student for many years of Ernest Holmes' The Science of Mind, which is now they call the Centers for Spiritual Living all over the United States. And what he says something to this effect. I just paraphrase. He says, wherever your mind goes, whatever you give your greatest attention to, the energy follows, has to go there. So what we have to begin to understand in this third golden key is that your subconscious mind is the microcosmic universe. It is a reflection of the macrocosmic universe. That's why we could say everything that we are experiencing on the inside is happening on the outside. However, our subconscious self doesn't know the difference between right, wrong, left or right, good or bad. What it does know is energy. And whichever piece of energy that's coming in there the most, that's stacking up on the inside, it's going to spill over, right? It's going to spill over into your thoughts, into your feelings, into your emotions, into your words, into your actions, into your deeds. So we have to control whatever's coming in, as well as what we've been holding on to for so long. If we don't release this stuff that we got going on in the inside of us, we're going to have a hard time attacking what's on the outside, blocking what's on the outside. We have to get on the inside. I remember the Tai Chi teachers back in New York City always used to say, especially the Asian ones, they used to say, when you're younger, you can outrun illness. Why? Because your body's strong. Why? Because your mind is not taking on opposition. Your mind is taking on building up strength within yourself and utilizing that chi to flow throughout your body. But as you get older, if you're not working out all the time or readjusting, moderating how you eat, how you sleep, everything else, then that thing called disease starts to catch up. Disease is nothing more than dis-ease. Another word, stress. Stress runs side by side looking at you, and now stress jumps on you. Now you're fighting stress. So, it is important with this golden key number 3 that we can now envision and have the inner vision, see within ourselves that we're feeling better, living without stress in any area of our life. That also means living without any illusions, living without fear. As I said last week, Jose Silva said it best, the late Jose Silva, the Silva Mind Method. Fear was an acronym for false expectations appearing real. False expectations appearing real. I mean, my late mother and her sisters and friends used to say, you're crying over spilt milk, or better yet, you're worrying about something in your mind. You're putting the thought out on something that you're worried about, but you haven't arrived at the event yet. Or they used to say you haven't crossed the bridge yet. That's like if you're taking a test and you got to pass this test. You might know your weak points in the test, right? But you may not realize you already know the answers. But you're worried about the test. And you worry so much about the test that you turn it around on yourself, and now you're thinking, I'm not going to pass this test, even though you know all the answers. It's the same way of thinking. So we start realizing that we could feel better, live without stress in any area of our life, and no more stress. Why? Because we have this inner vision of ourselves not having any physical stress, emotional, or mental stress throughout our body. This becomes the power point, the first step in that, the third golden key, but actually the first true step for the power of meditation for you. Here's another thing that goes along with this golden key number 3. We can command stress to leave. I'm going to say that again. You can command stress to leave simply by focusing on our remembrance that we are energy beings as light in motion deep down into ourselves. We are light as energy in motion deep down into the cells that are within our body. We got trillions of cells coming and going. They're like running a relay race, passing the baton to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. That baton is energy. That's light. That's positive thinking, positive feeling. That's the key to the higher self. Joyful thinking, laughter, self-love. These are the things that go from one to the next. So when we do this, I want you to say to yourself, this is what I want you to say. This is going to be like your meditation. I want you to say, I am stress-free. I am stress-free. Now, Remember what I said just a couple of weeks ago, over and over. I've said, whatever you say after the capital letters I and then AM together, whatever, I'll say it this way, whatever you say after I am, that space after that, whatever you put in there, that's what you're going to become. So, you shall become that. The subconscious mind only holds on to what you are saying and doing and feeling, meaning what you are repeating over and over and over. As I said before, the subconscious mind is your microcosmic universe. The subconscious mind is your microcosmic universe. So what you want to be able to do is place emphasis on I am, and I want you to feel it. I am. I am. I want you to feel that vibration in yourself when you say it out loud or say it in a low tone or repeat it mentally. Now, you're going to say I am, and then you're going to put free. You're going to say I am stress free. I am free. You see the word stress, you can feel it in your body, but you're going to say I am free. You can also say I am free of stress. I am free. And feel what the freedom feels like. You should feel exhilarated, free of stress. So you use the power of deep breathing. As you inhale, you mentally say to yourself, I am free. When you inhale, mentally to yourself. And then when you exhale, you say of stress. Why? Because you're getting that out of your system. You're not letting stress sit in the body of emotions, the sea of emotions, the sea of your thoughts or your feelings. You're not letting it sit there. You're not letting it accumulate right onto the physical body. And what you want to do is you want to keep repeating and keep envisioning this process, especially when you're using the golden key number 3. You want to do this several times a day if you can, for at least 21 to 40 days. 40 days is the remembrance, is the clarity that kicks in. It's a brand new habit for yourself. And by that time, you have begun to strengthen yourself with good self-esteem, self-love, self-respect, more understanding, greater compassion, definitely unconditional love, and the beauty of divine grace or grace in yourself. So this is something that you want to do. You can start at any time. I would suggest you start today. Breathe better for yourself. Don't go through that like that. Breathe like a baby. The baby is sort of like a miniature yogi, right? Letting the abdominal area beneath the diaphragm fall forward as it inhales, taking more light into the bronchial tubes within the lungs, then releasing. And the way I do it is 4 seconds in, inhale, 4 seconds out, exhale. So it's like this. Now some people can use the waltz, a 3/4 beat. 1, 2, 3, 2. So it's like inhale, but that's fast. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Go slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you're going to do is you're going to inhale. This is essential. When you can inhale like this is going to allow you to have a greater sense of control over yourself. Meditation is not about controlling people outside of you. Your meditation practice involves you meditating on yourself, working on yourself. Okay? So all of you that are tuned in right now, replay this, share this out to your community of friends. Thank you, Brandon Jamal Smith. Thank you, Tucker Omaria, being on here. Thank you, Michelle Vidal. Just share it out with other people. I want to focus a little bit more in my teachings on meditation because I want you to get there. You know, the ticket is to go inside and make that connection with the higher self. Once you do that, because you're getting deeper and deeper every time, eventually what happens is you learn that how easy it really is. It's not difficult at all. And once you can go that deep inside yourself on a consistent basis, so you might ask me, how many times a day? If you can, with the way things are going in the world, when you first get up in the morning, that's the best time. When you first get up, you're on that, what we call that alpha wave. You just outside, just got out of sleep mode, which is theta. Got out of the sleep mode. Seven, reps per second, 7 cycles per second, going up to 8, 9, 12, and 13. Then you get into that alpha state, which then you switch over, right? And then you get a little higher and you start bumping in what they call beta. Now, I don't know why they put it that way, because beta means you're wide awake, okay? And that means everything's moving faster. Well, you want to slow it down. You want to slow down your thoughts, the way you talk, the way you move on your feet. When you walk, you want to feel the ground. When you breathe, you want to feel all that energy dynamically coming into you and being dynamically released. That's what you want to be able to do. Because why you start establishing a greater sense of control. That's the whole key. You are tuning into you. And what you're going to find is that as you do this, everybody, you're going to find how much peace you actually have established for yourself. How much peace is on the inside of yourself. Now, this is a great thing. Peace on the inside, oh my goodness. You could go into a crowded park and establish peace through deep breathing, clearing your mind, clearing your feelings, and then going in and just stating to yourself, I am free of stress. I am free of stress. I am free of stress. Just letting it out. This is good to do. Relax. You can go by and see a lake, a placid lake. Go by some plants. Just sit there. You can feel the earth rocking beneath you, up through you. You can feel it. You can become that sensitive. So that's my message for today. This is Wisdom Keys with myself, Brother Francis, and we were dealing with discover the 3 golden keys to overcoming physical stress, emotional stress, and mental stress. And this would get you into this where you have greater self-love, higher self-esteem, self-respect, understanding, compassion. You'll have all of that going for yourself. So it assists you in having a bed of meditation, a power. You become this power source for meditation. You become like a generator, a transmitter, a receiver, an antenna. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be here next Thursday on December the 30th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 12 noon for the West Coast. Central Time Zone, it gets you into 2 p.m. and on the East Coast, 3 p.m. for another piece of Wisdom Keys with myself, Brother Francis. Thank you for joining me. Also, tomorrow, usually at about 12 noon, is Swanda. Swanda comes on, and that's Michelle Vidal, the owner of Resonant Essentials. She has a lot of good metaphysical teachings and philosophies that she's sharing with all of us here. Be sure to be here and get this information. She might even be, you might be able to catch her coming through here. I think she's broadcasting through YouTube. So you can go to Resonant Essentials on her YouTube channel there, and you can see her live giving you this information. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you celebrate Kwanzaa, then hey, Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you're doing, celebrate life. Celebrate yourself. My grace is your grace. Until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week at 1 p.m.